We now move on to our next panel, which is named Meaningful Engagement Through Automation. Once again, I would request the audience to start submitting their questions using the comment box for the Q&A session after the discussion. This session is moderated by Kashyap Kompella, CFA, CEO, and Chief Analyst at RPA2AI. Kashyap, over to you.
Thank you, Urvi, and what a fantastic panel the previous discussion has been making a lot of notes, a lot of the themes that are relevant to us as well. So my name is Kashyap Kompella, and I'm an industry analyst. And in that role for the last 10 years, I have been researching, writing, and advising large companies and small startups on MarTech. How do you use technology for engagement, for automation, for delivering superior customer experiences, etc. So ultimately, if you think about it, it boils down to the right platforms, the right message, the right audiences. So to discuss this topic, I have a very excellent and eminent panelist with me today. Let me introduce them. First off, we have Kishore Mardikar. Kishore, if you can join us. So he is the Chief Marketing Officer of e-commerce platform, Tata's e-commerce platform, Tata Click. He is an award-winning marketer and has more than 2 decades of experience. Interestingly, he's also a Tata lifer. So in his earlier stints, he passed through Vistara, Tata Capital, Ginger, and other Tata properties. So welcome to this panel. Next up, we have Abhishek Gupta, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance. Hello, Abhishek.
Hi, Kashyap.
So, very impressive credentials. I won't go through the long list, but he's been awarded as a top 25 outstanding marketing professionals in India. He's again a wealth of experience going through Mobile Store, Bharti Retail, Spencer, ICICI, Shoppers Stop, etc. So welcome, Abhishek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Nicholas Contopoulos, who is the APAC Regional Head of Marketing for Adobe's digital experience commercial business. So I was going through his bio. I got something very interesting. He says his mission is to change the status quo mindset that stifles creativity and leads to suboptimal customer experiences. So that I thought is quite interesting. So he has 25 years of experience across geographies and industries. Previously, he was with the SAP prior to his Adobe stint. So welcome, Nicholas.
Welcome. Hi, guys.
So next, we have a very entrepreneurial marketer, Anuj Ranka, who is currently the head of marketing at Early Salary. Hi, Anuj. So I guess if you're offering salary advances for dishwashers, I think you would be doing a lot of business now. So he has more than a decade of experience across leading brands such as Furlenco, Langur, and ITC Infotech. So he's been recognized as a top 20 digital marketer. So glad to have you here. So without further ado, let's get started right away. So our topic is meaningful engagement through automation. So I'm going to ask, as I was looking at this panel, one thing that struck me is in marketing, change is the only constant. But Mr. Kishore has been a Tata lifer. And when I think of Tata, I think of trust. Trust is the cornerstone of the Tata brands. So I think this is something very interesting. How do you translate that trust and loyalty and bring that to the omni-channel or the digital world? What are the challenges and opportunities, Kishore, there?
In fact, that's a really good start, a good question, Kashyap. If you actually start looking at my brands, which I have actually looked at both offline and online, trust actually has been one of the most important elements. In fact, even in Tata Click, trust is the most important pillar for us. And that was the reason we have adopted omni-channel. Because omni-channel actually helps us building trust by building direct connection with large number of retailers directly, showcasing the inventory directly there. And building that kind of a digital model actually allows us to sell what we call authentic product directly shipped from store. And that actually becomes the starting point of building trust. So that is what our brand is known for, brand stands for. But when we actually try and translate that trust part from a customer perspective, we see a completely different picture. Because when we have to build trust with the customer, the trust is built with the knowledge, the kind of customer insights which we wish to generate. And how do we translate these insights into something which is actionable, something which actually allow us to deliver and develop meaningful conversation with the customer. And that is what the entire marketing ecosystem tries to do in Tata. In fact, if I actually look at the kind of things which are very, very important from a marketing perspective to build the trust, there are two important levers or two important places where we keep on seeing here. The first is, as we all know, that a number of categories currently, shopping categories in the digital ecosystem actually have shown that almost 90+% of the search, the shopping search, starts on digital. And that is where, in fact, our shopping journey also makes sure that how do we start building trust right from the first moment, which is called I want to know. How to gain confidence of the customers right from the time when they are exploring, they're trying to search for something. How do we make sure that we position Tata Click or any other e-commerce player as the most authentic platform where they can actually start the search, where they can do the comparison, where they can explore. One of the things which we have seen in last couple of years of experience of Tata Click is the content plays very, very important, because customers are actually at that particular point in time, in that particular moment of I want to know, not decided about the brand, not decided about the models, not decided about what exactly they want to buy. And that is where the right set of relevant content, if it is actually showcased to the customer, that actually leads to a very, very good start of their shopping journey. That leads to the trust, that builds the confidence, make them keep on coming back to the platform again. If I were to continue and actually move to the next part of the journey, which is I want to shop journey, which is actually the lower funnel part of the journey, we have actually looked at a number of elements like what we call trust markers, customer testimonials, expert opinions, which actually give the last nudge to the customer to take the decision in front of or in favor of the kind of shortlist which they have. So making sure that on one hand, we showcase the right set of content to the customer, and the other hand, actually tell them and give them the right confidence callouts, actually help us build the trust in the entire ecosystem. And that actually brings me to the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge which we are facing is, while we are growing, how do we make sure that we are always relevant to the customer at every touch point? Customers across various geographies, customers across various categories, because we want to buy categories which are deep categories, which are impulse buy. But in both of the cases, both of these things require trust to be built in. And the last but not the least, at every stage of journey, how do we build trust? So that is the overarching challenge which we continue to face. Right?
I mean, authenticity, right content, and across different phases of the customer journey. So that's fascinating. Thank you for that. So next, I mean, that sets the stage for the next thing, which is about, in a lot of what you said relates to context, having the right context for the customer. So Nicholas, so how do you understand a customer's context? What are her behaviors, her prior experiences? All of these, I think, are very important to provide a meaningful experience. So what's the role of technology there?
Without a doubt, context is king or queen, depending which lens you look at it through. But without a doubt, contextual marketing is becoming increasingly important, or experiential contextual marketing is, without a doubt, in my opinion, very critical. You need to be looking at how you collect this data that we're actually, think of it as consumers, we're willingly and sharing this data, willingly or unwillingly, or not always consciously aware of it, but we're sharing information with brands all the time. And every time we share that information, there's a great responsibility placed on the marketer and the businesses that collecting that data to use that data in a way that can actually create this notion of brand utility, which is a topic I've been talking a lot about recently. It's not a new concept, it's been around a little while. But, you know, as marketers, we need to think about how do we collect this data and use this data in a way that drives more of a service-orientated engagement model versus, marketers are great at broadcasting and talking all about themselves and their products. But how do we collect this information, contextualize that, and then use it in a way that actually can create a service-orientated experience? So helping that prospect or customer as she's making the journey across your different touch points, and helping inform her on what is the right choice in terms of product she's maybe looking at. I think this is where there's a huge opportunity for us as marketers. And I think we're all aware of this. I don't think, obviously what I'm talking to is not necessarily a new idea or concept, but the big inhibitor has been, in my experience, been the siloed nature of our organizations. And marketing departments in particular are some of the most siloed or business units inside of a company. I've worked across multiple organizations in different roles. And that's where I think the challenge for marketers is they've got all this great data, this great technology they're collecting. How do they integrate that data? But not just the data inside their business units, but also across the organization. So looking at, you know, in a B2B context, you know, context working with the sales teams and customer service teams, and collecting that data and then using it in a way that can better inform your decisions and how you engage them. So, you know, we've got to a point now where we can deliver personalized experiences at scale. That's really easy to do now with technology, become a lot easier. But what's the next sort of the next leap forward is going to be the ability to individualize experiences. And again, that's where being able to understand what the data is saying about, you know, Nicholas's journey, and being able to present the right content through the right channel at the right time is going to be really important. So yeah, that's my thought. So contextual marketing and the ability to contextualize data is definitely, I think, the next battleground for a lot of us.
Perfect. I mean, in addition to the silos that you mentioned, I also noted touch points and personalization at scale. So we'll revisit that in just a little bit. But just a quick reminder to our audiences that you can put your questions and answers in the chat panel out there, and we will get to them through the course of the discussion. So next, Anuj. So there is content, there is context, but there is also channels. And there are quite a few channels out there, and every day there is a new channel. So tell us about, you're the expert here. So tell us about how do we prioritize the channels to engage the customers in? Is there really ROI in there? How do you measure effectiveness? So what's your experience been out there?
Hey, Kashyap. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of channels. Every day there is a new channel. Every day the audiences are engaging with new mediums, and you know, I mean, TikTok suddenly is replaced by Chingari, and you know, you see that you know, engagement for a consumer is about not about switching. Like switching a channel is not something which he'll stop away from. So, I mean, one of the key things which, you know, when we lay down your strategy and when you look at what channels will participate or what channels really are important for you is considering the stage of now. You know, we look at 5 stages which happen in every business, you know, you are into. Either it's going repeat customer and then advocating. Probabilistic customer to opportunistic value addition. You have to identify the channels which will help you covering that information gap. At each stage which the consumer is, he's looking at information to move to another stage. And the kind of channels which participate in this, in these stages are determined by understanding that what information that consumer wants. If he's transacting with you, then what is exactly what he's looking at, and what is the space at which he needs information. Does he need in 5 seconds, or does he need in 5 hours, or does he need in 5 days? So depending on businesses, it's very important to understand the stage at which a consumer is. That's what we do. We understand that if he's in a funnel and he's at a particular step, let's say in our funnel, we see that user have to upload a bank statement. And a lot of customers are new to the segment, like they are transacting for the first time. They're new to the credit, you know, line kind of environment. So we see that those consumers need information about how to do that step, and they need it instantaneously. Like you can't wait for 2 hours. You can't wait for 3 hours. You need to understand that this is the information which will make him move to another stage. So this is how we go about choosing. And at every stage, we define that what is the event which will give us value. So we define that what's the cost for that event. We understand that how much value it will create for us. And we understand based on what is the conversion rate of that funnel stage. So that's how predominantly we go about, you know, deciding it.
You've given a useful framework of whatever Kishore has said of content at each stage. You also brought in the real-time angle to that.
Yes.
And do that. So that's interesting. So we'll revisit some of these things. So next up, Vishek. So always, I mean, this is one, in the conversations with marketers, it always comes up. How do we integrate online versus offline? So each marches to a different drummer, so to speak. So how do you, I mean, I think the verticals that you've worked in and are currently working in is like a classic example of having to integrate both online and offline. So please tell us about your experiences and how do you view this puzzle?
Kashyap, first of all, you know, I come from a very strong line of belief that whether it is online or offline, consumer is not different. Consumer is still the same. Somehow we are in a habit of saying that this is an online customer, this is an offline customer. I come from a school of thought that the consumer is the same. The consumer decides to engage with us depending upon his or her convenience in an online or an offline medium. So I think it's time that we marketers actually start looking consumer as one entity rather than an online and offline. So I'll build on this thought because I'm a strong believer of this thought. So as in our business, in our industry, there is one line of business which we call as offline and one line of business which we call as online. Whatever we say that how much business is increasing, how much people are consuming and buying insurance online, still the online business is around 10% of what is the overall business. Most of the business still happens offline. And when I say offline, it is dependent on a face-to-face advisory, because insurance traditionally has always been sold. So therefore you require a lot of counseling to the customer and therefore face-to-face advisory. Online actually bridges that gap that there's no face-to-face advisory needed. There's still a lot of advisory needed. Consumers still need a lot of handholding. If you see the way online insurance has grown, earlier it started from basically pure term, because term is like a product which can easily be compared. It's a product that is very generic in nature, and you can compare features across the various providers, and therefore you can arrive at what you want. But over a period of time, this journey has evolved sharply. Now we have a situation where consumers are also buying online investment products like a ULIP products online, which were never bought online. So consumers definitely have shifted. What it has done is the insurance industry relies hugely on distributors. So what it has done is created a sense of, I would say, two parallel streams, as you were saying earlier in your question, that there's an online, there's an offline, and these two were never looking at eye to eye into each other. What current situation has done is actually narrowed that gap very significantly, because suddenly we are realizing, when I say we, I mean to say the face-to-face distributors are now realizing that you can actually service, meet, handle, answer their queries, the customers online. You don't have to meet them. So I see a lot of gap currently being covered. So not too much of gap being there. What interesting thing has happened, and very interesting thing that has happened, is the offline business is very quick to adapt to online selling, because it also has become a case of survival, because if you do not change at this point of time, you are going to perish. And let me just explain to you what is quickly adapting means. So if I am an advisor and you are my customer, in traditional world, I would have come to you, shown you, probably done a need analysis for you, and then recommended a suitable product for you. All this happening a face-to-face interaction. And now I do not have that luxury of face-to-face interaction. So what our distributors and what we have done is quickly converted this entire transaction which was happening and completely moved into online. But it is more of real time. So my advisor will send a message to you, okay, hi, I would like to discuss some solutions for you, which I believe is this thing, which I believe are good for you. Can I get a time for you? These are personalized message. So Kashyap gets a message saying, hi Kashyap, with my name, Abhishek. The moment you reply, we have automated our system so that that reply goes into our lead management system, and immediately Abhishek as an advisor gets a nudge ki customer has responded. Now quickly move on and send the customer the next message. And even to send the next message, we have a variety of options given to the seller, to me, that has customers requested for a time. So use this. If customer says, call me later, use this. If customers say, no, I'm not interested, use this. So the seller can simply choose what to send and immediately send. So, and this how the transaction entirely moves on until the final sale has happened. And also the customer has been onboarded and policy has been issued. Now, through this, a divide has been capped. Through this also, that belief of the offline team that online sales do not happen, or online sales are just a very small tip of overall pie, that is getting, that belief is getting shattered now. So I believe the consumer are still going to remain the same. How we interact with the consumer are going to be dependent purely on the choice of the consumer. And third and last, I believe, is while everybody talks about new normal, I don't believe there's going to be a new normal. I believe when things go back and when we are out of this virus pandemic, we will go exactly to the way we were. We would like to celebrate life. We would like to celebrate with friends and family. We'll go out, we'll meet people. Everything is going to remain same. Some bit of changes might happen here, but there's no new normal. It will be the old normal only. It's some very minor modification.
Hold on to that thought, Abhishek, like the new normal or the new paranormal. So we will revisit that. So I think I captured one very key point, which you said is like, meet the customer where he is. No online, offline, and no silos. So there'll be music to Nicholas. So Nicholas, when I think of Adobe, for example, so every marketer's dream is that the product that they work for, that their brand, become a verb. For example, everybody says take a Xerox copy. So that used to be the dominant brand. So I think Adobe is probably the only company which has two such verbs, as you know. Everybody wants to Photoshop something. So that's one thing. Or people say, send me that PDF. So a file format itself has become a thing. So that's quite interesting. So on that topic of technology, see, as I think about marketing technology, to me, it appears that technology is a necessary, but not sufficient condition for delivering superior cross-channel experiences. So in your view, are there other factors that are needed for this to orchestrate superior customer experiences?
I have a formula that I'm sort of known for when I present. So if someone see me present, they'll know this, but OP plus NT equals EOP. OP plus NT equals EOP. Old process plus new technology equals expensive old process. So again, I think there's a trap we fall into with technology in assuming that it's going to solve all our problems. We need, and some of the panelists have started to explore this, we need to be thinking very holistically around how we architect this notion of omni-channel experience. And it involves bringing the physical and digital worlds together without a doubt. Really starts with understanding the individuals and who they are, what makes them tick, and also more importantly, why should people buy from you? So Adobe, one thing I love about Adobe is it has a very clear sense of purpose that its entire ecosystem rallies around. For us, we want to make everyone an experience maker. We passionately believe that we're all capable of being experience makers, whether you're a CMO or a creative in a creative department, or in IT, we all play a role in creating and delivering experiences. So I think it's really critical that businesses have a clear sense of purpose. Simon Sinek's a great thinker in this space. He's written a fabulous book that really influenced me years back, Know Your Why. I think having that clear sense of who your business is, why you do what you do, and then building an ecosystem around that then harnesses, and it's cliche, people, process, and technology. It's an old concept, not new, but I think we forget about it. And that's why I love that formula that, OP plus NT equals EOP, because we always need to come back to understanding the role of people and process in particular. And I think this gets over, with all this fancy technology, and I sell some of the world's best technology when it comes to enabling marketers deliver what they need. I honestly wouldn't work for the company if I didn't believe that. But as I say to customers, I don't want to sell you the technology unless you really understand what you need to change inside your business. I think, and that's where a lot of businesses still make mistakes. And I'm 49, I've been around the block, like some of my fellow panelists, I'm sure, we've seen success, we've seen failure. And I would imagine we all would agree that a lot of that failure often is as a result of us underestimating the people process elements. And that's the beauty about technology now, enables you to connect the different elements of the business, bring that organization together and help you scale in ways we couldn't even imagine. I mean, think about, like, we're all living through this, awful pandemic. But if I think about the role technology is playing now and still enabling a lot of our businesses to still function or to, make the pivot that's required, technology is really important. But again, the people involved in that is really important. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I mean, my takeaway is old process plus new technology is a good expensive old process. So I think new process plus old technology, I wonder what that's going to be.
Oh, you definitely, don't get me wrong, you need new technology, but just, because again, a lot of well, I'll just pick up on that point. This is the challenge. If you try to, so the legacy technologies that exist out there, they were designed for a completely different era. And this is, again, the challenge you have. If you look at a lot of e-commerce platforms out there, they were designed pre-iPhone, and that's the challenge. Trying to architect and orchestrate and bring those technologies together becomes a real challenge. And that's why selecting your technology vendors is really important. You're not going to do everything with one vendor. You're going to work with multiple vendors. So you need to understand how those elements are coming together. So it is a very good point you raised. I mean, definitely don't want to diminish the importance of new technology because it is often going to be the differentiator for you, but don't underestimate also the investments needed on the people process side. Yeah, back to you.
Yep. So one of the things that I say is that the biggest or the most important investments that you can take in marketing technology are really in your people. So that's something that I always bring up in my work. So next, Anuj, to me, it appears that there is the channel conflict. There is the old business versus the new business. Some technology also, something that's pre-iPhone, etc. Do you think that there are certain businesses, probably such as yours, which are digital first businesses? Do they have it slightly easier in terms of delivering a good customer experience? Everything is digital, or are there issues there that are slightly different and more nuanced?
Kashyap, with I think what Abhishek was mentioning earlier about, the thing which Abhishek was mentioning that due to the situation, I think most of the businesses, I mean, to a larger extent, now are thinking about how to be digital and how to really have one point of thinking and thought process into acquire customers or provide some experience which is digital in nature. Maybe exploration part for a customer about a business could be digital in nature. Maybe consideration part could be digital in nature. But every business is now thinking, because now they cannot shy away from the fact that customer needs a certain engagement with the business, which will be pure digital, no matter what business you are in. So now the things will change. I mean, this question, which is about, yes, how deeper the engagement could be with digital first businesses compared to businesses which are both offline and online in nature. Yes, that is something where I do feel I resonate with your parent thought about digital businesses can go more deeper into engagement, can have full funnel engagement with the customer where the transaction also happens and you have a lot of information. But at the same time, the consumer also is expecting more from businesses which are digital in nature, and any digital program which you do which is coming out of a brand or a business which is offline and digital has more appreciation for a customer, because he was not expecting that. He was not expecting, let's say, an automobile maker to come across and give him a digital experience of how the look and feel of the car is, and to virtually give him, that experience. So the challenge for digital first businesses is that we have to now move away to the next level of creating engagement, because customer already accepts a certain kind of engagement with us. He's already, used to getting relevant messages. He's used to personalization. These have become standard for a consumer who is engaging with digital businesses. So I think that the responsibility is more on us. And because it's a digital business, the consumer which we acquire predominantly, I have been, participating and heading companies which are in early stage of growth. So early stage growth company always is looking at those people who are digital first adopters, and people who are in tier 1 cities, and most predominantly are trying to target people who are digital savvy. But what happens is this digital savvy audience is also the audience which is likely to go away from you, because they are just going to stick with you if you are convenient to them. I mean, there's nothing above convenience for a digital, savvy consumer in any part of the world. So that becomes a challenge, and your engagement now becomes more important in terms of how you're making sure the convenience for the consumer is lifelong. And that's the only thing which is going to make him stick to you. It will not be about, either personalization. It's not about, sending him, happy birthday wishes, or it's not about, wishing him. It's not about all of that. At the end of the day, it's about that. Are you actually making sense for the consumer? Which is your service consistent? And are you able to create enough threshold for him to believe that you cannot leave him, that you have to stick to him, because there's a high threshold for leaving you. So yeah, that's my thought, that I think it's more challenging for digital first business compared to businesses which are, offline.
what you said is there is an opportunity to know your customers better, but at the same time, customer loyalty can be fleeting. So I think that
Yes.
makes a lot of sense. So Abhishek, I think you mentioned something very interesting. Some notion of necessity is the mother of invention. Everybody is suddenly digitally transformed. So there is a joke going around which says it's not the CEO, it's not the CTO, it's not the CMO that has accelerated digital transformation, but it's really the COVID. So what's your take on it? Has it accelerated digital transformation specifically of marketing?
Ideal answer would be no, no, no. It was already a part of the plan in this, but hand on heart, I think we have to be true to ourselves. COVID has definitely accelerated it. And when I say accelerated, I actually mean it has accelerated it at a very high pace, very high pace. So I'll probably, rather than commenting on everybody, I'll take us as an example and say, we always wanted to automate our consumer interactions by our distributors. We are a business heavily dependent on distributors. So there was a project which was undergoing, and had been the normal scenario, we would have probably implemented it 1.5 years down the line. But the moment lockdown started in March, at that time the reality hit us hard that if we have to stay relevant, if we have to actually continue being in business, because if your advisors are not able to meet customers, that's 90% of your business, and that's not going to happen. We really have to speed it up, and that's what we did. So yes, COVID managed to accelerate it, but the heartening point to actually see is that we always go by the old saying that we all are resistant to change. People don't want to change. Here, I actually saw so much openness to change by everybody across the chain. Probably, yes, it was that kind of a situation because we had no other option. But even in that scenario, the willingness to change and willingness to try out a new method was so high. And therefore, we were able to ramp up quickly. And when you have, when I say ramp up quickly, we are talking about 40,000 people on street. We have more than 40,000 agents who actually advise us, who sell our products. Training them and equipping them with this, and most important is that change of mindset. I can create a lot of things, but unless I'm able to change the mindset. So what COVID has did was that realization was there that if I don't change, I will perish. So therefore the minds were very open, accept this change. And that really helped us. But yes, it has speeded up. All credit to COVID for this. Yes.
I think that's a silver lining out of it for marketers. I think marketing is not just about new process, new tools or anything, but also what you highlight, that shift in mindset that has to go on. Right? So Kishore, I think something that again, I always been interested in terms of marketing is automation, right? Automation helps you personalize, etc. But sometimes we get these email messages which says, "Hi, valued customer." So your name has or hi first name. So is there like automation can seem impersonal, but at the same time, there is the opportunity to sort of personalize at scale or individualize, as Nicholas called it. So where do you strike the right balance, or how do you strike the right balance between personalization and technology?
Very interesting question, Kashyap. In fact, when we look at us at this particular point in time and the speed at which we are growing, we are in fact actually finding the same dilemma. In fact, one of our brand beliefs is virtually personal. We are a digital brand at this particular point in time. But how do we make sure that we marry both the technology and the human connection and don't get actually too much into either of them? That's what our problem is. And that too at scale. In fact, that's the first part of the question, that how do we manage scale? For all the other platforms like us, which are e-commerce platform, collecting data is not a problem. In fact, browsing data, shopping data, tons of data is available with us. In fact, we use Adobe systems a lot, and we are actually right now bombarded with it. The problem starts with how do we actually decipher that data? How do we convert that data into what we call as actionable insights? That's the starting point of our challenge. And how do we then take that forward all the way to certain affinity models, prediction models, and build what we call the relevant experience, or relevant experience, what was spoken about by the panelists. That becomes the starting and the end point of all of our problems. For us, what we actually have started doing is to make sure that all the marketing initiatives are customer focused. We actually look at customer lifecycle management, the CLM framework, and the core. And it's a matter of just acquisition, or just matter of making sure that customer comes and trial our product, but make sure that the journey starts from that trial. And how do we take it forward? That becomes the most important aim for us. But the problem of becoming impersonal is a very, very important problem, because as we are growing, there is a tendency to actually move more to broadcast mechanism, more to making sure that we actually, rather than finer segmentation, we actually get into broader segmentation, and that actually helps us growing faster. So how do we marry these two things and balance between these? Here our approach actually has revolved around two things. One is to make sure that we try and build conversation. Rather than making sure that we actually become preachy, we become clinically correct in our communication, we actually build conversation. By building conversation, what we have tried to do is at multiple levels of customer experience, how do we keep on introducing certain elements which actually prompt the customer to respond, prompt the customer to actually interact, prompt the customers to share their data. So what also happens is actually it enriches our customer insight, and that also actually engages the customer. So what we have done is make sure that we keep on building these kind of smaller elements at every part of customer journey, and technology actually is helping a lot. In fact, the biggest challenge now is how do I automate? How do we make sure that there is a series of triggers which keep on actually interacting with customers, collecting the data, meaningfully engage with them, and moving them from one stage to another stage. That is one aspect of it. So one is the conversation. How do we build conversation? That is one thing which actually helps us moving from a slightly impersonal to a personal. And the second part of it, being a digital brand, we don't want to become a brand which is actually distant. We want still to be a brand which actually is more of a look and feel. Because as customers, we know that all of us actually love personal interaction, human to human interaction. And at every stage, we tell our customers and we assure our customers that we are there. We have contact centers where actual people rather than bots are available for any help, even if it is at the start of the purchase journey or end of the purchase journey or post-purchase. People are here. So making sure that we actually continue to give that assurance that at the back of the technology, there are people who are actually waiting to help. Just raise your hand. Is something which actually has helped us.
I think that that's a great way to look at strike the balance between personalization and automation and technology, etc. I think I'm getting the signal that we should wrap up now. There are a few questions, but I just want one word, final concluding thought from each of our panelists. Let's go with Nicholas, Abhishek, Anuj, and Kishore in that order. Take 15 seconds and say what's your one top takeaway for our audiences here. Nicholas in the spotlight.
Yeah, no problem. Embrace change, as was stated earlier. Make sure you have the right mindset, embrace the change, and
embrace change. Done. Anuj, sorry.
Be responsible for every SMS, email, and push you send.
Be responsible in spamming. Okay, Abhishek.
Except that there's always a better way of doing things.
Always a better way. Up to you, Kishore. Have the last word.
Start small, learn, test, and improvise.
Start small, learn, test, learn fast. Okay, thank you. I mean, from my side, my thing is excellent panel. Thank you. So wish we could have continued this for longer, but limitations of always. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kashyap.
Thanks. Thank you.
I request the audience to keep the discussion going on social using the hashtag Road to MarTech.